Hello. I just feel like talking. I feel like talking because honestly, it's kind of like therapy for myself. Really, I'm gonna be honest with you. When you voice things out loud and you talk, even if you're talking to a friend, the more you talk, you start answering your own questions. That happens with a lot of people. And so I like to click on and talk because, well, they wave back. Yeah, I like to click on and talk because sometimes other things come to me as I'm talking. I want to talk about, what was it? It's several topics that I wanted to talk about, but what is the main one? I just forgot what I was thinking about. It was along the lines of, you know, it's difficult to stay in to get in the higher frequency that you might desire. I'm gonna say with this, and this is just what I feel like I've learned during the particular work that I do on myself. You're not really in a higher frequency unless you are more in the truth. Okay. And so somebody who thinks they are a higher frequency because they have higher energy, but then they're full of deception, meaning they're full of lies. They're indoctrinated. They're indoctrinated full of lies. They have limited human programming. They don't know really the truth is. Well, they might have a lot of energy. They might not get sick. They might have a strong immune system, but they're not really in a higher vibration because there's only one truth. I don't care of whatever kind of rituals people call themselves doing, what kind of sacrificing. People, let me tell you, when people do these blood sacrifices, that is a trap for them. It's going to hurt the person they do it to, but that person also will have an opportunity to realize, because that stuff right there teaches that person a lesson too, that it happened to, because it happened to that person because there is they're fragmented somewhere too. There's an open door for that kind of stuff to happen to them too. So it's an opportunity for them to learn, even though it could be very painful. But the people that think they're doing that, let me tell you something. The people that's doing these blood sacrifices and feel like they've actually got what they wanted, I feel like they're in worse condition than the people that they actually do it to. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the people that they do it to actually do get harmed when it works. But that's an opportunity. If that person survives, even if they die though, they're eventually going to get to a point where they're going to wake up, right? So even if they die in that particular lifetime or life experience, because all of it is a game of life. It's an experience, really. Even when they come to the next life, they're going to realize, they're going to learn. But then if you have somebody else who think they're getting away with it, and they keep doing it because they feel like it's working for them, they are in more of a soul trap than the people that they're actually hurting. Because they are being fooled, they're being tricked into thinking they're getting everything they want when all of this is fake anyway. They're not really getting anything because nothing is really happening. I'm driving right now to my to work, right? But in real life, it's not happening because this is not the real world. So really, I'm not doing anything. Really, I'm dreaming about all of this. None of this is really happening. So the people who think they're getting all they want don't understand that they're still asleep. And they're doing all this to harm other folks to get what they want. But really, they are setting themselves up for a deeper trap. They're setting themselves up and they're digging a bigger hole for themselves because there's only one truth. You're not connecting to the divine by thinking you're going to sacrifice somebody else and take their crown. Or destiny swapping with somebody else. That seems to go on a lot. The destiny swapping stuff seems to be going on a lot. I also want to say this too. When it comes to, it has to get to a point where, because now I'm going to change it. I'm not going to change the topic, but I'm going to get off of that blood sacrifice. it has to get to a point where other people just are not going to matter. You got to be kind of ruthless. And I wouldn't call it ruthless. It's really self-love. It don't seem that way because we've been taught that having self-love and having love means that you're kind of soft and, you know, not even if you don't allow somebody to walk all over you. They think self-love is kind of like just not doing anything, I guess. I'm trying to say it. People don't understand that when you can be ruthless and have self-love too. Sometimes things have to go. If a dog with rabies come to bite your child and you take that dog out of his misery, would that be wrong? Well, no, because you know it's a dog, right? So that wouldn't be wrong. Well, here's the same thing with people. You did something to save your child's life. Oh, that's right. I'm going to keep going around. You did something to save your child's life, right? So you don't see anything wrong with that. And plus, it was just a dog. So dogs are not seen like humans are. Right? So, I think, where am I going to turn? But anyway, so dogs are not seen like humans are. So you don't see anything wrong with that. When I say you, I'm speaking in general. You don't see anything wrong with that. But it has to be the same thing to apply when we're in a world, unless you find a way where you can just go somewhere. And where in the world are you going to go where collectively people are on a higher vibration? I know there's some places to go, but it's kind of hard to find where you can go somewhere where collectively people are just going to be on a higher vibration. I'm looking here. Oh, okay, I see my turn. And so, you got to be ruthless in the fact that people are just going to have to be terminated. I'm going to use the word terminate. I'm not going to use the word die because this is already kind of the land of the dead, or some people call it the living dead, but it's the land of the dead, right? And so for the most part, I'm going to use the word terminated because if I use the word dead, well, the way I see death is not necessarily physical death, because I don't really believe in physical. I believe in a slower vibration that it put to where things look physical is the vibration is so slow where it's things more materialized. But I don't believe in the physical, right? So when I think of death, I think of a person, people who are not connected to the divine, people who are not connected to source, their source. And that's what I would call a death. So spiritual to me is only a spiritual death and not a physical death. It's only spiritual death. And so there's a lot of people that's already dead. So my thing is that they just need to be terminated. And you got to get to the point where, in order to kind of get the rest, for me, I got to get to the point of, in order to get the kind of rest that I need so I can get where I'm supposed to be, I can't think that somebody else's life is so valuable. Not that I'm going to do anything to them. It's just the Most High. I would request for the Most High to just kind of, just clean out terminate what we think are people that really are not people. They're really not people. There's a lot of manipulation happening with this 3D type of realm. There's a lot of manipulation happening from the heavens, right? You think you're seeing what look like people, and they're not people. There's other entities that are masquerading as people, but it's something else that's going on. But beside that, I think United States is just going to stay on a low vibration. There's just no way around it. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. I'm so sick of hearing racism. That has been going on for too long. It's time to clean that out. And we know that we have people who are in power who like to keep that type of stuff going, that type of propaganda going, because it does keep people on a low vibration. And it might also put money in their pockets, but it helps to keep the collective on a lower vibration, and they get to stay in power, because they can't vibrate but so high. So if they keep people vibrating low like that, then they get to stick around longer. Okay, Um, so yeah, it's just you got to get to a point where you have to realize that there is something greater, and in order for me to really relax how I want to get the rest and relaxation that I want to, a lot of stuff just has to go. And if I do go out of state somewhere, well, I can go somewhere for maybe a month, 2 months, okay. But the problem is, I might have to end up coming back. And then the thing too is that even if you get citizenship over somewhere else, it may or may not be on a high vibration. What I've noticed about the world is that they are in the pockets of a lot of people that are not so great. I look at a lady from Africa who does a lot of videos, and she talk about how Africa is kind of controlled by Freemasons, same thing like with maybe United States of America and pretty much the world. So it's really hard to kind of go anywhere where they're not controlled like that. And when you do go somewhere, you still have to make sure that you have income. You still have to make sure you have income. And for me, I'm going to be honest with you. When you have to constantly be concerned about paying your bills, because even rich people still have to make sure they keep up their money. Even when you're rich, you have to make sure that you keep that status either way. And when you have to worry about how you paying your bills, to me, you're not in a higher vibration. And to be honest with you, I would rather. And the only reason I'm not doing this is because I'm not sure if California is my final destination. And that's the reason why I haven't done this yet, because I've already made that mistake with getting into one house and having to go through HE double hockey sticks to get rid of it, because I decided to move to California from Cleveland, Ohio. And that is a task. And I don't feel like renting out my house to somebody else if I'm going to be all the way across the world. I don't feel like having to rent out my house and have that responsibility, because that's going to keep me attached to a place that I don't intend on coming back to. But it's keeping me attached there because I have a house that I have to rent because it's hard to get rid of it. I don't want to have to deal with that. Once I move and leave a place, I'm done with it. I don't want any ties to that place, right? And so I don't want to get a house to rent out in case I move, because when I decide to really move, I want to move for good. I don't want nothing holding me back. Well, I have to come and fly back to check on the house in a place I have no intentions on coming back to live, right? And so, but if I did decide to if California was my final destination, I would have to learn how to be off grid. What time is it? It's time for me to go to work. I would have to learn how to be off grid, because it really is a low vibration to me that even if you do have the money, you always have to make sure you have the money. So I don't really like that. I really would prefer to learn how to live off grid, excuse me. I'm gonna look at a lot of videos on off grid living too, because even if I decide to move to another place, I still want to be off grid. I do not want to have to pay something every month. I don't want to have to do it. And so I do want to learn how to get my water, get it to where I don't have to pay for water. Because if I don't have to pay for water and I know how to get my own water, then it can never be shut off and it will always be clean. I don't have to worry about electricity. I don't have to worry about the electricity going out, because I would know how to do it. I have to look at all that stuff. And so I feel like that's a lot easier. Because right now I feel like we're domesticated. Nobody's really, there are people who are independent, but for real, a lot of people in the United States of America, most people in the United States of America, or even the world for that matter, even the world, they're not independent. People are domesticated. They don't understand. I don't care how much money you make. If you're living in a house where you're paying a water bill, another company is controlling the water, another company is controlling the lights. It don't matter if you have the money to pay your bills when the lights go out. When there's a blackout, it don't matter you paying your bills if there's going to be a blackout. It don't matter you paying your bills if something happened to the water and all of us just completely shut off. In a lot of cases, especially in the United States of America, that is them doing that on purpose to mess with people. In the United States of America, I don't know about anywhere else. They're doing that on purpose. And I don't want to deal with a company who's going to control my water like that, even if I have the money. And they have a habit of doing that in the United States of America. They have a habit of playing games like that. Okay? So I feel like having to worry about bills, even if you're not necessarily worried, even if you got the money, like I said, you always got to make sure that you're going to have the money. You always got to make sure that you have money. I'm sorry, but money should not be something that I'm concerned about. Like, money is not a high vibration. It's not a high vibration. You know it's not a high vibration because you have a lot of people who traffic children who have some of the most money. So how is money a high vibration if people who do things like that have the most money? Money is not a high vibration. And so I don't like having to focus on something like that. I don't like having to focus on that. I think that keeps you on a lower vibration, having to focus on money. But also, I want to say this. United States is too much deception in the United States of America. And I understand that because this is a land of the dead. Or the living dead, whatever. But a lot of people ain't living. Some people are, but a lot of people ain't, they're not living. This is literally kind of the dead, okay? And there's a whole lot of deception going on. And at this point, if there's not going to be any truth, at least on mainstream media, and then when people want to come online and make videos online to actually tell the truth, they get shut down. That is when it's time to let United States of America go. And it might be necessary to get rid of most of the people who keep holding on to this type of deception. They keep going for this kind of deception. It could be time to let them go too. When there was a pandemic around 2020, during the pandemic, it was a lot of people who were so deceived and indoctrinated. You know, when I was living in Palm Desert at the time, and when I did not have the vaccine, people looked at me like I was just the worst person in the world because I did not have the vaccine. They looked at me like they thought I was absolutely out of my mind. They thought I was contagious. They thought I was contagious because I did not have the vaccine. You know, and they would tell their family members, "Oh, if somebody else don't have the vaccine, don't talk to them if they don't have it." Like, they were horrible. I'm sorry, I don't want, and that's just an example, because if somebody decide to have the vaccine, to me, that's their right if they want the vaccine. But what I noticed, a lot of people with the vaccine, they treated other folks who did not have the vaccine like we were like subhuman. They treated us like we were contagious. They treated us like we were going to give them COVID. They really were quite terrible. And I'm not impressed with people. I don't think, for the most part, the people that's in this particular plane of existence, for some of us who need just to relax, we just need to rest. Because when I looked at the pandemic, to be honest with you, I looked at the pandemic in Costa Rica. I looked at the pandemic in like all around the world. How did they handle the pandemic? And for the most part, they were going along with the games all around the world. Now, it could have been some select areas. It could have been some select areas in certain countries or within the continent in certain countries that they did not go along with that. But for the most part, when I looked around, when I searched around how the world responded to the pandemic, they kind of went along with it. The population just kind of went along with the pandemic. And so when it comes to stuff like that, it kind of doesn't do any good to even kind of move around, right? Because if another pandemic happens, and it's supposed to be worse than what COVID was, then no matter where you move around to, these other places, they're going to be in cahoots with it. They're going to go along with it. So what's the point of it? It's good to travel because you get to know more about yourself, because you really don't what people don't understand is they're more than an individual. They're more than that. They are, They're like omnipresent. They don't realize they're omnipresent because they've been limited to being an individual and to being a human. But they really are omnipresent when they get to know more aspects of themselves. They really are God. They really are God, but they haven't reached the point of godhood because their awareness is low to the point they don't realize their godhood, right? And so it's good to travel because you get to know more about yourself because you are everywhere. You're omnipresent. You really are, and you really are omnipotent. But when you have a low point of awareness, it's hard to see that. Uh, but yeah, I think it's time for a termination. It's time for a termination. It's time to cleanse things out for the people who really prefer the truth. Um, Tired of all the deception. It's time to clear out a lot. Not only clear out the the diabolical rulers, not only clear out them, but you're going to have to clear out the people who are already completely indoctrinated and have no interest in letting go of that indoctrination. Like they're not going to let go of it. Uh, but anyway, it's time for me to go. I just felt like talking a little bit, and I'll talk later.